Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. The first chilling omen wasn't the gore smeared across their armor, nor their arrogant swagger into Nexus Station's diplomatic lounge. It was the unnerving hush that blanketed the room as they spoke. The tallest Craxian, a mountain of muscle and malice, slammed his gauntlet down on the crystal table, making delegates jump. We have returned triumphant from that death trap they call Earth. Ambassador Wilson, a veteran of 40 years of interspecies diplomacy, nearly choked on his recycled coffee. This was unprecedented. His gaze swept the circular chamber, taking in the Altarian trade ministers, the vegan peace negotiators, the insectoid hive minds scribbling notes, all fixated on the blood-soaked reptilian warriors with a mix of morbid curiosity and dread. "Death World?" croaked the lead Altarian, her usually vibrant blue skin fading to a ghostly white. "Earth is classified as a garden world, a peaceful, stable biosphere." The Craxian commander, his emerald scales scarred with ritual markings, unleashed a grating laugh like metal grinding on metal. "Peaceful? We barely survived 3 cycles on that hellhole. The apex predators there defy description." A cold dread seeped into Wilson's gut, heavier than the station's stale air. "Tell us of your conquest," pressed a vegan diplomat, their internal light pulsating with morbid fascination. "What terrors did you face?" "Nightmares," hissed the second Craxian, his scales rattling with remembered fear. "Smaller, yet somehow more savage creatures that hunt as coordinated packs. Fanged demons that ambush from the shadows. And the sounds," he shuddered, "the howling that echoes through their accursed forests." Impressed murmurs rippled through the room. Wilson's jaw tightened. "We fought with honor," the commander continued, pacing like a general addressing his troops. "We faced the great predators with their terrible claws and jaws, the pack hunters that surround their prey before striking. Some fell to our weapons, but many vanished back into the wilderness." "Incredible," breathed the Altarian. "How many warriors did you lose to these apex predators?" The commander puffed out his chest, pride swelling his voice. "None, though it was a near thing. The largest predator, a monstrous beast with yellow eyes and dagger-like teeth, cornered 3 of my finest soldiers near what the planet's primitive database called a residential zone. We thought they were doomed." Wilson's fists clenched under the table. "But you prevailed?" asked a hive mind, its compound eyes gleaming with calculating curiosity. The smaller Craxian preened. "Through cunning and superior tactics, we drove the beast away from our warriors. Though it retreated, rather than face our full strength. Cowardly, but intelligent. These Earth predators understand force. And the pack hunters," pressed the vegan delegate, "vicious." The commander recounted, a certain grim satisfaction coloring his tone. "Small, but in overwhelming numbers. They attack as a coordinated unit, a truly terrifying spectacle. We found a sizable pack, perhaps 8, close to what we presumed were deserted dwellings. They had encircled our forward scouts, poised for the kill." Wilson rose slowly, every gaze in the room fixed upon him. "Forgive me," he said, his voice deceptively gentle. "But did you mention encountering these creatures near residential zones?" The Craxian commander nodded, a trace of pride in his voice. "The entire world seems to be a vast hunting ground, littered with deserted settlements, overrun by these beasts. The original inhabitants likely fled, or were consumed long ago, sir." Wilson's voice remained carefully measured. "And you overcame them, naturally?" "Indeed, though it required our full firepower. The pack hunters presented a unique challenge. They seemed to possess some form of rudimentary communication, barking, whining, even, something akin to speech." Wilson's brow furrowed slightly. "Speech, you say? What did it sound like?" Nonsense, of course, but the vocalizations, unlike anything we've cataloged. Silence descended upon the room. Wilson began to walk around the grand table, the sound of his polished shoes echoing in the stillness. Every alien delegate watched him, a newfound interest in their eyes. These pack hunters, Wilson continued, his tone conversational, the ones making noises like speech, their size? The commander gestured. Variable sizes, the largest perhaps knee-high to a humanoid, predominantly brown and black, although we encountered individuals with golden fur as well. And they were guarding these residential areas, defending them. Precisely. Quite territorial, they became particularly aggressive as we neared the smaller structures, what you might term dwellings, even though they were clearly abandoned. Wilson nodded slowly. And the larger predator, the one with the glowing yellow eyes and formidable claws, the solitary hunter? The commander's scales shifted, a hint of annoyance flickering across his face. Roughly 4 times the size of the pack hunters, orange and black stripes, utterly massive. It was patrolling what appeared to be a cultivated area, rows of plants in orderly fashion, a garden perhaps. Upon sighting our warriors, it immediately moved to engage. We barely suppressed it with heavy fire. But you didn't kill it. The commander's scales darkened slightly. It retreated with the arrival of reinforcements, displaying tactical acumen by withdrawing rather than facing certain defeat. Wilson reached the end of the table and turned to face the room. Gentlemen, ladies, esteemed hive clusters, I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? What kind? Asked the Altarian delegate. Wilson smiled, though it lacked genuine warmth. Well, for starters, Earth is not abandoned. Our current population hovers around 8 billion humans, give or take a few million, depending on the S. The ensuing hush was so profound, the fall of a pin could echo across the cosmos. 8 billion, the vegan delegate murmured. Active population. Yes, we're rather attached to it, actually. We've resided there for hundreds of millennia, even longer if you include our evolutionary ancestors. The Craxian commander's jaw dropped, exposing rows of formidable teeth. That's illogical. We discovered no sign of advanced civilization, no metropolises, no technology. Ah, but you did find metropolises, Wilson corrected with gentle warmth. You simply labeled them abandoned settlements. An understandable error. Humans favor dispersal, constructing in symphony with the natural world. It's a profoundly sustainable methodology. But the apex predators... Wilson's smile deepened. Allow me to illuminate. Pack hunters, knee-high, with brown and gold fur, generating speech-like noises while protecting domestic zones. The diminutive Craxians nodded, rendered speechless. Those would be dogs, Canis familiaris, humanity's most ancient and devoted allies. We've selectively bred them for kinship, safeguarding, and labor for roughly 15 millennia. The commander's scales drained of color. Companions? Cherished companions? That pack hunting you witnessed was likely merely a family promenading with their beloved animals. The speech-like noises were barking, a form of discourse. They were urging you to vacate their humans' territory. Wilson addressed the assembly at large. And the colossal orange and black apex predator? A house cat, Felis catus, probably someone's treasured whiskers or mittens guarding their family's garden. A choked sound escaped the Altarian delegate. The commander's voice wavered. Domesticated? About 9 millennia ago. We cherish them as premier vermin controllers, and they purr with contentment, wonderfully soothing after a demanding day. You're stating they fought? A pet? Well, in fairness, Wilson remarked reasonably, they did mention repelling apex predators with formidable claws and pulverizing jaws. He paused for emphasis. I'm genuinely intrigued by that claim myself. The Craxian commander seemed to crumple, his confidence evaporating. Enormous beasts, a mix of gray and brown, some rivaling our own soldiers in size. They charged from the ocean. "Ah, you encountered the seals," Wilson murmured, likely puzzled about the unprovoked aggression towards their shoreline. "They enjoy protected status along our coasts. I trust no harm befell them? The penalties for disrupting their habitat could cripple a world's economy." "Protected?" the smaller Craxian sputtered. "Those aquatic mammals? Largely benign, unless you are a fish, though a mature elephant seal might inspire terror in the uninitiated. They can weigh up to 4 tons. An unnerving silence descended upon the conference chamber, save for the subtle whir of life support. Every gaze was fixed on Wilson, expressions ranging from stunned disbelief to poorly concealed amusement. "So," Wilson continued, his voice still calm and conversational, "if I grasp this correctly, you trespassed upon Earth, assaulted domesticated animals and native wildlife, and then arrived here to brag? Regarding your unfortunate encounter, the Craxian commander's jaw worked silently before he finally spoke. "Wilson," he began, but Wilson cut him off with a disarming grin. "Earth is deceptively dangerous. You just happened to meet our most amiable inhabitants." He stressed the word amiable with careful weight. "Dogs adore everyone. Cats are largely indifferent unless you're trespassing. Seals are almost entirely peaceful outside of mating season." Wilson paused, a glint entering his eye. "You didn't happen to arrive during breeding season, did you?" A collective dread washed over the Craxians. Wilson continued, his voice laced with sweet menace. "Now the question becomes how to resolve this diplomatic misstep. After all, you essentially broke and entered vandalized property and assaulted protected wildlife." We didn't realize," the commander stammered, fear evident in his tone. "Precisely. Which is why I'm proposing a solution." Wilson's smile sharpened into a predatory curve. "A cultural exchange. Return to Earth, this time as invited guests. We'll provide a comprehensive tour, introduce you to the locals, showcase our vibrant cities. An authentic Earth experience." His eyes shone with dark amusement. "I believe you'll find it enlightening." One of the smaller Craxians looked green around the gills. "What kind of enlightenment?" "Well," Wilson mused, "we could start with some of our less cuddly animal companions. Bears, for instance. Incredibly protective mothers. And then there are the big cats, lions, tigers, leopards. They're far more interactive." "Interactive?" the commander squeaked, his voice reaching a near hysterical pitch. "Naturally, we must visit a genuine human settlement. Forget those suburban areas. I'm talking metropolises. Millions of people. You would be captivated by New York, or perhaps Tokyo, Mumbai." Wilson's grin was a study in subtle menace. It's amazing what 8 billion apex predators can achieve when they collaborate. An oppressive silence descended, the hum of the environmental system amplifying into a deafening roar. "Apex predators?" whispered the Altarian delegate, her voice barely audible. Wilson arched an eyebrow. "Did I neglect to mention that humans are, in fact, Earth's dominant apex predators? We simply choose to tolerate even cherished dogs and cats." He turned back to the Craxians, his voice hardening. "The animals you fought, they weren't defending themselves. They were defending us from you." The shuttle's descent was a silent, suffocating affair. 3 Craxian warriors sat rigidly, their armor gleaming under the cabin lights, desperately avoiding eye contact with the human across the aisle. Dr. Patricia Coleman, professor of xenobiology, adjusted her tablet and offered a warm smile. She had volunteered for this particular exchange the moment she heard the story. Whispers had surrounded it, her team labeling her mad, but she saw it as vital field study, So as the shuttle plunged into Earth's atmosphere, she declared, her voice brimming with anticipation, "Eager for your premiere glimpse of Earth." The Craxian commander, war leader Thetel, whom she'd met earlier, offered a pathetic murmur. "We have observed your world." "Hardly a proper look," she countered. 3 days in the wild. That's like defining humanity by a roadside restroom." Coleman's smile deepened. "Today, you're getting the deluxe tour." The shuttle kissed the landing pad softly. Tucked behind the Henderson residence in Denver's suburbs, a neighborhood she'd chosen for its insightful value. "Now," she announced, freeing herself from the harness, "the Hendersons are throwing a little shindig today. Casual, a standard Saturday barbecue." Nervous ripples passed across Thetel's scales. "Barbecue, cookout, social congregation?" "Humans," she explained, "prepare nourishment outdoors and ingest it in unison. A bonding ceremony." Coleman omitted her request to the Hendersons to include everyone. "Shall we?" The ramp descended with a whoosh of hydraulics. The welcoming sound of human mirth floated across the lawn, interwoven with the compelling fragrance of sizzling meat and the faint joyous sounds of youthful play. Coleman inhaled deeply, exiting the shuttle. "Ah, take in that scent. That is the bouquet of human civilization." The Craxians trailed behind, hesitant, their weapon-bearing appendages instinctively reaching for absent holsters. Coleman had mandated they arrive unburdened, calling it a gesture of goodwill, though they now seemed to regret that choice. "Dr. Coleman!" a delighted voice called from the patio. "You made it." Tom Henderson waved, wielding a spatula over a cloud of smoke, a friendly giant at 6'2", built like a football player, and sporting an apron that declared, "Kiss the Cook." Nearby, about 30 individuals socialized on the deck and grass, holding refreshments and talking cheerfully. "Tom, thanks for having us." Coleman indicated her colleagues. "These are esteemed envoys from the Craxian Dominion." "Far out," Tom exclaimed, flashing a wide grin as he ambled over, wiping his hands on his stained apron. "Greetings, folks, to our humble planet. Hopefully you've worked up an appetite because I'm grilling burgers, brats, and some phenomenal salmon." Doc took a hesitant step back. This earthling towered over any Craxian soldier, approaching with disarming ease, and sporting what seemed to be the vestiges of a recent kill on his attire. Is that blood?" the smallest Craxian warbled, his voice trembling. "Barbecue sauce," Coleman chirped brightly. "Tom is a complete fanatic about his grilling, you know." "Damn right," Tom bellowed, extending a colossal hand towards the Tox. "Name's Tom Henderson. I manage the local hardware shop." The Tox stared at the presented appendage as if it were a volatile explosive. After what seemed like an eternity, he tentatively reached out and barely brushed Tom's fingers. "Now that's a firm handshake. That's what I like to see. Anybody fancy a beer? I've got a cooler brimming with his." The tense silence shattered as an explosion of joyous barks erupted. A golden retriever, Bailey, burst from around the house, tail a blur of pure happiness, trailed by a motley crew of neighborhood dogs. The Craxians froze, weapons forgotten. "Oh, that's just Bailey," Tom chuckled, watching the dog skid to a halt before the aliens. "Our welcoming committee. Bailey, sit." Obediently, she plopped down, tongue lolling, tail still thumping a frantic rhythm. "Bailey's a sweetheart," Coleman explained to the petrified warriors. "In dog speak, that tail wag is an invitation. It means, 'Hello, I'm friendly. Please be my friend.'" That's the pack leader?" one stammered, eyes wide. Tom laughed. "Bailey? She's terrified of vacuum cleaners. Though she did once corner a raccoon in the garage, barking at it for 2 solid hours until we got home." More dogs arrived. A German Shepherd, a pair of beagles, a massive St. Bernard dwarfing the Craxians, each displaying the same unnerving, friendly enthusiasm. "Deadly. They're coordinating," the smallest Craxian hissed. "They're hoping for dropped food," Coleman corrected. "Basic Pavlovian response. Humans eating outdoors equals potential treats." "Dr. Coleman?" A gentle voice cut through the tension. Mrs. Patterson from across the street ambled over with a plate of snickerdoodles. 70 years young, barely 5 feet tall, her grandmotherly smile could melt glaciers. The third Craxian warrior, silent until now, made a sound like escaping steam. "Oh, how lovely." Coleman accepted the plate. "War Leader Thawk, I'd like you to meet Mrs. Patterson. She's retired but used to be a high school principal." Mrs. Patterson beamed up at the 7-foot-tall alien. "Oh my, you're a tall one, aren't you? And such interesting skin. Is that natural coloring?" Thor's mouth worked soundlessly. This tiny, fragile human was regarding him with the same detached curiosity his grandmother reserved for livestock at Caesar Market. "Mrs. Patterson has lived in this neighborhood for 40 years, Coleman continued. "Raised 3 children, has 7 grandchildren, and once chased off a black bear that was getting into her garbage cans." "It was just a little black bear," Mrs. Patterson demurred. "More scared of me than I was of it, though I did have to get quite firm." "Firm," Thop croaked. "Well, I couldn't let it make a mess of my recycling. I used my husband's old golf club just to make noise, you understand. The poor thing ran right back into the woods." The Craxians exchanged horrified glances. This seemingly breakable human had driven off a predator that could have easily torn her apart. "Bears are naturally shy around people," Coleman shared gently. "They've adapted over time to keep their distance from us. A matter of survival, really." "On that note," Tom announced from the barbecue, a playful tone in his voice. "Heard about the mountain lion Fish and Wildlife moved last week? They found it near outside the elementary school. A crowd had gathered, not for children, but drawn by the sight of alien visitors and a mountain lion. A young male, someone guessed, probably searching for water. Animal control arrived, darted the creature, and returned it to the national forest." Tom expertly flipped a burger. "Third one this month," he noted casually. A woman in running clothes added, "They're getting bolder. I saw tracks on the trail yesterday." A park ranger chimed in. "The drought's driving them down from the mountains, seeking resources." Thea stared, horrified. They spoke of massive predators as if discussing the weather. Coleman explained, "Mountain lions. Big cats to us, unlike your garden cat. Apex predators, 8 feet, 150 kg of muscle, designed for killing, and they roam through your towns?" The smallest Craxian asked weakly. "Occasionally. They usually avoid people, but young ones get curious." The ranger smiled. "We relocate them. No harm done. You relocate them? Catch and release? They're protected." The ranger grew serious. "Attacking livestock is different, but mostly they want to be left alone." Mrs. Patterson added, "What about bears?" Thea practically whispered. "Oh, we get bears all the time," Tom said cheerfully. "Black bears mostly. Browns wander down too. Last summer, a mother and 2 cubs lived in the ditch behind the grocery store." "Living in your towns?" "Well, the ditch isn't exactly in town. More like wilderness adjacent." Tom conceded. "But to a bear, I guess it's all the same." "What did you do?" "Nothing. They weren't bothering anyone. The cubs were cute. Kids would watch them play." Tom frowned slightly. "We did warn people to keep their distance. Cute doesn't mean safe." Coleman watched the Craxians, their understanding visibly shifting. "The thing about Earth," she began, "humans have been dominant for so long. Most animals have adapted to us. We're not part of their ecosystem anymore. We're like a force of nature they navigate. Like a natural disaster?" Mrs. Patterson suggested. "Exactly. I like to imagine we're more like landmarks on the Earth. Towering mountains, winding rivers, vast oceans. humanity itself. All forces other beings must either navigate or evade. A guttural, resonant growl ripped through the tranquil afternoon, instantly paralyzing everyone in the yard. The Craxians instinctively reached for armaments that weren't there. "Don't worry, that's just Duchess," Tom stated, visibly relieved. "Mrs. Chen's mastiff. She probably just..." A gentle stirring roused her from a nap. From around the house's corner ambled the biggest dog any Craxian had ever laid eyes on. Duchess, a Tibetan mastiff, was a furry mountain of nearly 200 pounds, moving with the serene confidence of a creature utterly unthreatened. "She's magnificent," Coleman breathed, awestruck. "How old is she now?" 8 years, Mrs. Chen called from the patio, getting a bit creaky, but still thinks she's a puppy. Duchess, her massive head pivoting with curiosity, ambled closer to the group of aliens, her dark eyes scrutinizing them. She inhaled deeply, then sank down with a sigh, yawning widely. "She's deciding if you're interesting enough to bother standing for," Tom chuckled. "Duchess is all about energy conservation these days." The third Craxian warrior stood frozen, practically vibrating with alarm. "That's not a dog. That's a small bear." "Common mistake," Coleman said with a grin. "Tibetan mastiffs were originally bred to guard livestock against actual bears, wolves, even leopards, anything that posed a threat." "Bred," his voice trembled. "Selective breeding. Humans have been genetically reshaping dogs for millennia. We've crafted breeds for hunting, guarding, herding, companionship, even simple aesthetics." Coleman gestured at the diverse canine group. "Each represents generations of meticulous genetic manipulation. You engineer your companions skillfully." "When you phrase it like that, it sounds almost sinister," observed one Craxian. Coleman countered with a grin. "We prefer collaborative evolution. We offer them sustenance, sanctuary, medical assistance. In return, they give us unwavering loyalty, protection, and emotional comfort. It's been a mutually beneficial arrangement for both of us." Mrs. Patterson produced a small treat and extended it to Bailey, who took it with delicate precision and a joyful tail wag. "The really fascinating thing," Pullman added, "is that dogs are fundamentally just wolves who learn to thrive alongside humans. We didn't so much domesticate them as they domesticated themselves. Those tolerant of human presence gained access to our discarded food. Over time, they evolved to be increasingly more compatible with us." "Wolves." The smallest Craxian's voice was a mere whisper. "Oh yes," Coleman affirmed. "Canis lupus. Dogs are, technically speaking, a subspecies of the gray wolf." Coleman's eyes sparkled with academic excitement. "They're so genetically similar that they can still interbreed. We call the offspring wolf dogs, although owning them is restricted in many regions." "You keep domesticated wolves as pets?" Teeths questioned slowly. "And you also have wild wolves roaming in your wilderness areas? And bears? And mountain lions? And coyotes?" "Those are essentially smaller wolves," Coleman enumerated on her fingers. "Plus elk, deer, moose, bison. Oh, and alligators in the southern areas. Venomous snakes, poisonous spiders. A truly impressive assortment of creatures capable of ending your life if you're careless." An unnerved silence descended upon the backyard. Every human was now captivated, listening with growing amusement. "But here's the crux of it all," Coleman declared, her voice assuming a professorial tone. "All those creatures have learned." "Did you truly believe you could live amongst humanity?" Coleman inquired, her tone laced with a knowing skepticism. "The intelligent humans have altered their conduct, carefully evading your kind. But what of those less astute?" Thor questioned, though reluctance shadowed his words. Coleman's smile sharpened, hinting at something ominous. "Ah, that is where the narrative takes a turn. Those animals you encountered earlier weren't fleeing. A heavy silence descended, thick with unspoken implications. They were defending their domain against the unknown. And those dogs... Coleman paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. They were protecting their humans. Just then, Mrs. Chen's cat chose to reveal itself, igniting a sequence of events that would reverberate through the cosmos, though hardly for the better. The cat, emerging from behind the roses, defied all Craxian expectations. Unlike the orange tabby they'd previously seen, this creature was a sleek, ebony feline with striking white markings, its movements as fluid as liquid night. "Aish, Midnight," Mrs. Chen cooed affectionately. "She's been tucked away all day, hates a crowd." Midnight halted at the patio's edge, her amber eyes sweeping over the assembled humans before locking onto the 3 alien observers. Her pupils widened imperceptibly, her tail giving a subtle twitch. It's assessing us," one Craxian murmured, his voice barely audible. "She's determining whether you warrant her attention," Dr. Coleman clarified. "Cats are notoriously discerning when it comes to socializing." With deliberate grace, Midnight began to weave through the human legs, a familiar path. She stopped directly before war leader Than, casually commencing to groom her paw, utterly unconcerned with his towering form and fearsome armor. "This one is unlike the other," Thor observed slowly. "Different breed?" "Midnight's a tuxedo shorthair. The first one was probably a tabby, or perhaps a Maine Coon if it was exceptionally large." Coleman knelt, offering her hand. Midnight sniffed it cautiously, then rubbed against her fingers. "Cats have been our companions for roughly 9 millennia, originally to control pests in agricultural settlements. A biological solution to an economic problem. Rodents, mice, rats, things that devoured our stored grain." Coleman gently scratched behind Midnight's ears, eliciting a soft, resonating rumble. "That's purring, indicating contentment." The rumbling intensified as other cats began to appear from every corner. A large orange tabby lumbered from under the deck. A refined Siamese delicately strolled across the lawn, and 2 fluffy Persians seemed to materialize from thin air. "They're converging," the third Craxian said, his voice laced with alarm. "It's feeding time," Mrs. Patterson explained. "Mrs. Chen feeds the neighborhood strays every evening. They are punctual." "Strays? Cats without homes?" "We have a community program to humanely manage the cat population." Coleman stood, brushing cat hair from her hands. While a few of these felines aren't entirely without a home, like Mr. Parker's cat, considered a stray these past 3 years, it still finds comfort nestled on Parker's bed each and every night. The gathered cats had settled into a relaxed A crescent of patient humans surrounded the woman, each face a mirror reflecting the golden afternoon light, anticipating Mrs. Chen's memory to unlock the kibble's hiding place. Coleman glanced at her watch, a silent prompt. "Time for our Denver tour." The drive became a surprisingly rich lesson as Dr. Coleman narrated their journey. Joggers shared paths with geese, cyclists dodged prairie dogs, children played near signs warning of rattlesnakes, a vibrant illustration of urban wildlife. "This interface is truly fascinating," she remarked, halting at a red light. A hawk spiraled above, while below, squirrels boldly plundered trash. Most species have adapted incredibly well to our altered world. "Adapted how?" Teeth inquired, a sliver of apprehension in his voice. "Behavioral shifts, primarily. Coyotes now hunt in smaller groups, mastering traffic's rhythm. Hawks nest on skyscrapers, not cliffs. Even insects exhibit this adaptability. Subway spiders have evolved unique hunting strategies." They passed construction workers sharing lunch with raccoons. "The workers aren't worried about predators," the smallest Craxian observed. "Raccoons aren't true predators. More like clever opportunists with skilled paws. They're smart, opening cans, latches, even puzzles. Tool users, problem solvers. There's a classic study about raccoons washing food, then teaching their young. Cultural learning, like humans. The truck halted before the Denver Museum of Natural History. School children enjoyed snacks on the steps, while deer grazed on the lawn, watched by nonchalant guards. Perfect timing. Field trip day, Coleman observed. The 33rd graders and their teachers gazed up with a mixture of awe and curiosity as the truck revealed 3 alien warriors and a smiling professor. "Dr. Coleman," a teacher called, "are these your space visitors?" "Indeed, Angela. Kids, these are friends from afar, eager to learn about Earth's creatures." 30 young faces turned, radiating pure, unfiltered wonder. Several waved. One boy held out his juice box in a gesture of welcome. "They're so tall," a girl exclaimed. "Are you soldiers?" Teach looked at the small human, probably 30 kilos, unarmed, studying him with the same unblinking interest he reserved for unusual geological formations. "Yes, a warrior." "Cool." "My father served in the military," Billy began, his voice carrying a newfound weight. "He always told me, soldiers possess incredible courage." The girl pondered this, her gaze fixed on Billy. "Do you think you're brave, then?" The simple question lingered, suspended in the quiet air as 30 pairs of young eyes and the watchful gazes of 2 teachers centered on him. After a long moment, Billy confessed, "I used to imagine I was Thor." Another child, eager to contribute, piped up, "But Billy's actually scared of our hamster." A small giggle rippled through the group. Hamsters are tiny. Being afraid of one is kind of ridiculous. The 3rd Craxian tilted their head, their large eyes filled with genuine curiosity. "What is this hamster?" Coleman grinned, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Oh, you absolutely have to meet him. Angela, is Chester still nearby?" Angela nodded. "Of course. We brought him outside so he could enjoy the fresh air with us. Chester, why don't you say hello to our new friends?" With gentle hands, one of the children raised a diminutive wire cage from the museum's steps. Inside, a hamster, fur the color of sun-baked earth, tirelessly spun a wheel that led nowhere. "This is Chester," Angela announced, her voice warm. "Our classroom's Syrian hamster." The Craxian's gaze fixed on the tiny whirlwind of fur and motion. "A truly diminutive thark," it observed. "Hamsters are prey," Coleman clarified. "Practically the bottom rung of the food chain. Their means of survival hinges on explosive breeding and remaining unseen by anything larger than them, which is essentially everything." Angela added, "But Chester's completely safe here. We feed him, maintain his cage, ensure he exercises. Do you also keep prey as companions?" "Oh, countless creatures," Coleman replied. "Hamsters, guinea pigs, rabbits, birds, fish, even reptiles." She ticked them off on her fingers. Some families own pet snakes, others lizards or turtles. There's even a man downtown with an alligator, though it's against the law. "And you maintain both predator and prey?" "Segregated, of course, though accidents sometimes occur." Angela's face clouded with a somber recollection. "Last year, our library cat escaped and devoured the principal's canary. A truly dreadful incident." "Your classroom has a cat, Miss Rodriguez?" "Indeed. Mr. Whiskers resides in the library, supposedly for pest control, but he mainly dozes on the radiator." Losing interest in grown-up talk, the children resumed their snacks. The Craxians watched, captivated, as these miniature humans shared food with squirrels, ignored grazing deer, and played games involving frantic movement and loud vocalizations, seemingly unaware of their inherent vulnerability. "They exhibit no fear," the smallest Craxian breathed. "Why should they?" Coleman countered. They are safe within this environment, but dangers lurk everywhere. Where? Coleman scanned the surroundings. I observed deer, squirrels, a pair of sparrows, nothing posing a threat. You mentioned cats. Also bears, mountain lions, and wolves nearby? Not in this environment. Urban predators stay in industrial areas, parks, or drainage systems places, offering cover and sustenance. Coleman smiled. Besides, even if a mountain lion somehow strayed into downtown Denver, it would avoid a group this size. Predators single out isolated prey. But what if the predator is desperate, injured, or defending offspring? Then animal control would sedate it and relocate it to a more appropriate habitat. We're equipped with protocols for occurrences like this, formalized procedures, standard operating practice. Humans excel at mitigating danger using methodical strategies. Coleman's scholarly ardor began to resurface. We've coexisted alongside perilous fauna for millennia, developing pattern discernment, tool utilization, social organization. It's fundamental to our nature. A sudden uproar erupted amongst the children. Two boys bickered fiercely over a sandwich as a brazen squirrel audaciously attempted its pilfering. Timothy, share your sandwich or stow it away, Angela urged. Don't antagonize the wildlife. The squirrel initiated it, Timothy retorted, hoisting the sandwich above his head, while the frustrated squirrel shrilled from a tree limb. Squirrels can't initiate anything. They're simply hungry. Angela approached and gently confiscated the sandwich. If you won't consume it, we'll discard it properly. The squirrel, denied its prize, unleashed a volley of rapid-fire chattering that remarkably resembled invective. It's expressing its profound dissatisfaction, KMA observed. Squirrels possess intricate vocalizations. They transmit information regarding predator types, threat assessments, even specific individuals who have posed problems previously. It's likely discussing us, perhaps warning other squirrels that these particular humans are parsimonious with food. Coleman cocked her head, attentive to the ongoing chatter. Or potentially, it's simply resorting to name-calling. Urban squirrels are remarkably creative in their insults. The museum excursion proved genuinely illuminating. The children guided their alien companions through displays featuring life-sized representations of Earth's most awe-inspiring predators, both past and present. A Tyrannosaurus rex towered menacingly over the plain. Cave bears and saber-toothed cats prowled through meticulously recreated Ice Age landscapes. These formidable creatures once roamed your planet? Thitch inquired, gazing up at a truly massive woolly mammoth. Some still persist in modified forms. Others succumbed to extinction as climate shifted. Coleman indicated a display showcasing contemporary predators. These represent current species: polar bears, grizzly bears, Kodiak bears. How many bear species exist on Earth? Globally, there are 8 species, though North America hosts only 3. Black bears are the most commonplace, those Mrs. Patterson referenced. Brown bears encompass grizzlies and Kodiaks. Then, in Arctic zones, we find polar bears. The display featured a full-sized polar bear model. Even on all fours, it rivaled the height of the Craxian warriors. This one surpasses the others in size, a third Craxian observed. Polar bears rank as the largest terrestrial predators on Earth. Males can reach 800 kilograms. They are also exceptionally proficient swimmers, capable of tracking seals across immense expanses of sea ice. And humans coexist alongside these creatures? Well, coexist might be an overstatement. Polar bears inhabit regions sparsely populated by humans. When encounters occur, we implement appropriate safeguards. What form do these safeguards take? Weaponry, barriers, vehicles, communication systems, standard safety protocols. Coleman paused at the display on human-wildlife conflict, murmuring, "The real danger isn't usually the bears." "What do you mean?" I questioned. "Bears are predictable. Coleman explained. They follow established patterns, stick to known territories, and avoid humans when possible. The real problem arises when humans fail to observe safety protocols. The exhibit presented statistics on wildlife attacks, revealing surprisingly few incidents. Most injuries, it detailed, occurred when people disregarded warning signs, approached animals too closely, or interfered with their feeding or mating rituals. Coleman elaborated. These animals aren't malicious. They're simply reacting to perceived threats or opportunities. But surely, I countered, some species actively hunt humans. A select few, Coleman conceded. Saltwater crocodiles, some large cats, certain shark species. However, these are predominantly found in remote areas with sparse human populations. Coleman then smiled, adding, "The species that have learned to actively avoid humans tend to be more successful long-term. Remember, even apex predators learn to give us a wide berth. Creatures that directly challenge humans rarely leave many offspring. Natural selection favors those that steer clear." We moved through exhibits showcasing venomous snakes, poisonous spiders, infectious parasites, and a truly impressive array of organisms capable of dispatching a human in myriad creative ways. "Your world is extraordinarily dangerous," I finally stated. "Is it?" Coleman replied, viewing the museum with new eyes. "Perhaps it seems so to someone from a different environment, but this is simply our normal. We evolved here. We are adapted to these conditions, these threats, these opportunities." Coleman gestured toward a group of children engrossed in an interactive predator identification game. "Every human child learns to recognize dangerous animals, understand basic safety protocols, and navigate complex ecosystems. Even the youngest ones. Survival education begins early." Coleman observed a 7-year-old accurately identifying a black widow spider and reciting its danger level. "By age 10, he continued, most human children can distinguish hundreds of species, recognize threat displays, and execute appropriate response protocols." The smallest kraken had grown remarkably quiet. "Your species trains its offspring for warfare against your own environment." "We prefer to consider it basic education," Coleman quipped. "Reading, writing, arithmetic, and don't touch the pretty spider, it will kill you. It's just part of growing up on Earth." As we prepared to depart, one of the children approached, offering a drawing of a cheerful dinosaur sporting a party hat. "I drew this for you," she announced, "because you seemed sad." Thox gazed at the artwork, then at the small human who had created it. "You made this for me?" "Uh-huh. Dinosaurs are extinct, so they can't hurt you anymore. This one's nice anyway." Just then, distant sirens grew louder, signaling that our next destination was about to become significantly more educational than anticipated. The real terror, I realized, emanated from Aisle 3. The wailing sirens weren't for us. They were rushing toward the wildlife haven outside Denver, the final destination Dr. Coleman had arranged, an emergency lifeline for nature. "We're transferring them there," she announced, leading us behind the flashing ambulance. Someone discovered a bald eagle, broken and bleeding near the interstate, another victim of speeding cars. The rehabilitation center resembled less an animal pen and more a high-tech veterinary clinic, a stark contrast to what we Craxians anticipated: pristine white buildings, state-of-the-art medical equipment visible through gleaming windows, and surgeons in scrubs moving with balletic precision. "This is where Earth's apex predators come to heal," Dr. Coleman stated as we parked. War Leader Thed watched, mesmerized, as a team of humans delicately transferred the injured eagle onto a gurney. "You heal the creatures that could kill you?" "Eagles don't hunt humans, really. They much prefer fish and small rodents. But yes, we mend all injured wildlife." Coleman strode toward the main building. We treat nearly 3,000 animals yearly. Inside the lobby, a gallery of photographs showcased miraculous recoveries. Wolves with mended fractures, bears recovering from devastating collisions, mountain lions fitted with satellite collars post-treatment. A woman in scrubs, Dr. Walsh, approached, stripping off her surgical gloves. Perfect timing. We've finished the initial assessments of your demonstration subjects. Marvelous, Dr. Walsh. How are our patients? The wolf is ready for release. Those bullet wounds are completely healed. The grizzly requires another week. That paw infection is proving difficult, but she's responding well to the antibiotic treatment. The Craxians froze, thunderstruck. Thol's voice, normally resonant, cracked. Grizzly bear? Oh yes, we have some truly exceptional examples of successful recoveries today. Dr. Walsh beamed, oblivious to the Craxian shock. Would you like to be introduced? The wolf habitat was a meticulously crafted slice of forest, complete with moss-covered logs and a babbling stream. The animal within was breathtaking, dwarfing any earth dog, its amber eyes following our movements with unnerving intelligence. This is Dakota, Dr. Walsh announced. Someone shot her about 6 weeks ago. Poachers, most likely. The bullet shattered her shoulder, but our orthopedic surgeon performed a miracle, rebuilding the joint. Dakota glided towards the reinforced glass, her movements fluid despite the recent trauma. She examined us, the alien visitors, with evident curiosity, tilting her head. She's unafraid, the smallest Craxian whispered in disbelief. Of course she is. She's never encountered your kind before. There's no learned fear, Dr. Walsh noted on her tablet. We will release her next week in Yellowstone, far from any human settlements. So you're returning a predator to the wild? That is precisely the purpose of rehabilitation. Wild animals belong in the wild. Dr. Walsh headed toward the next enclosure. D. Nightmares. Her matted fur was the color of dried blood and old earth, a stark contrast to the pristine snow around her. A jagged scar bisected her snout, a testament to battles fought and won. Her breathing was a low, guttural rumble that vibrated through the ground, each exhale a plume of frosty air. Even in repose, she radiated a primal power, an ancient and untamed ferocity that commanded respect, an aura that made the Craxians question their courage. As she stood to observe the newcomers, Bertha seemed to loom over the enclosure. 400 Kelultia, Dr. Walsh announced with gentle pride. She's one of the largest females we've cared for. A discarded can caused a nasty cut, which sadly turned into a serious infection. Bertha lumbered to the edge, her massive frame settling heavily as she fixed the Craxians with an unblinking gaze. He's assessing us, Thak murmured, apprehension coloring his voice. Probably wondering if you have food. Bears are relentless opportunists, always driven by their next meal. Dr. Walsh scratched behind her ear thoughtfully. Bertha's grown rather accustomed to regular feedings. It may take time for her to readjust to foraging independently. We provide a balanced diet during care, yes, but minimize close human interaction to prevent reliance. The group proceeded to other enclosures, each telling a story. Mountain lions, still healing from harrowing collisions with vehicles. A black bear, slowly recovering from debilitating parasites. Coyotes, carefully trapped and gently relocated from sprawling suburban developments. Each of these animals, Colbin explained, his voice resonating with gravity, represents a clash with human civilization. Devastating vehicle strikes, fierce conflicts over fragmented territory, unfortunate accidental injuries. Theans seem vibrant, the third Craxian remarked with genuine observation. The wonders of advanced veterinary science. We can now mend injuries and combat diseases that were once inevitably fatal. Dr. Walsh displayed treatment records on her tablet. We now see over 80% success in rehabilitating apex predators. And then you return them to their rightful habitat? Yes, equipped with tracking collars to follow their progress. Dr. Walsh smiled gently. Most successfully reintegrate into the wild. Coleman led them to a final vantage point, overlooking the vastness of the facility. From this vantage, they could grasp the sheer scale, observing countless animals slowly recovering in a haven. "This is what I wished you to truly understand," she expressed softly. "Every single creature here symbolizes a fundamental misunderstanding your species held about Earth." "What do you mean?" "You came expecting a world of fierce, unrelenting predators, a constant struggle for survival, didn't you? Instead, you discovered a deeply managed ecosystem where humans, the apex predators, work tirelessly to safeguard and nurture every species." Thak stared at the rehabilitation center below, a new understanding forming. The animals we encountered were sick, hurt, or fiercely defending what they believed was their land. The healthy ones simply avoided us. Coleman's tone shifted, adopting a familiar lecturing cadence. "Earth's predators learned a long time ago that humans aren't on the menu. But you said humans are apex predators. We are, but we are unique. The only apex predator in galactic history who actively protects our competitors." Coleman gestured towards the center below. "We invest billions of credits annually in wildlife conservation, habitat protection, species reintroduction programs. Her efforts might actually succeed, blossoming from our evolved capacity for collaboration, transcending mere cutthroat survival." A gravity settled on Coleman's face. "Every single creature contained within that research center possesses the inherent capability to end a defenseless person's life if pushed far enough, yet they refrain. Our enemies, our charge now," Dr. Walsh returned, her rounds complete. "Apex predators. Fascinating. Their behavior sculpts entire ecosystems. Yellowstone wolves? Changed elk migrations, vegetation thrived, streams flowed differently, fish flourished. Cascade effects." Colin nodded. "Remove the top. Everything shifts, usually for the worse. Predator populations maintain balance. We maintain them because ecosystems thrive on complexity and completeness." Holographic displays flared. Population dynamics danced before them. "Biodiversity," Dr. Walsh emphasized, "shields against environmental shifts." The Craxians watched the data stream, predator-prey ballets, migration maps, genetic richness. "You manage your entire world," TH breathed slowly. "We try," Coleman replied. "It's intricate. Constant vigilance, rigorous science, flexible strategies. But humans excel at complex challenges." He continued, "These weren't random creatures. They're part of a managed tapestry, each animal a precious investment." Coleman's smile sharpened. "You didn't battle Earth's apex predators. You desecrated a biological treasure." Silence hung heavy as the truth landed. The pets, the wildlife, the predators. These facilities. The smallest Craxian stammered, "All under human protection." "Under human stewardship," Coleman corrected. "We decide who thrives, where they roam, which genetic lines endure. Every large predator owes its existence to human will. We permit them to exist, and we can choose to end it." Coleman's voice grew colder. "We've erased species that clashed with us. These remain because they coexist, benefit us, or simply because we value them." Dr. Walsh added, "Or because they inspire us, provide scientific insight, or because we feel a profound duty towards their well-being." He looked out over the rehabilitation center, a sanctuary of apex predators resting peacefully, receiving care, preparing for a new life in human-preserved lands. "We were wrong about Earth," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "You were wrong about everything," Coleman agreed. "You believed you faced a dangerous world, but instead, you assaulted a nature preserve managed by the galaxy's most dominant species." He emphasized, "The most dominant. We're the only civilization that has achieved complete planetary supremacy while sustaining our competitors. That requires ecological mastery that most civilizations can only dream of." Dr. Walsh finished checking Dakota's release forms, then turned her attention to the more pressing matter. "Regarding the animals injured during your unauthorized hunt," she began, her voice firm, "we need to discuss restitution, covering medical expenses, habitat restoration, and genetic studies to secure breeding viability." She slid a tablet towards Teich, showcasing a detailed invoice labeled "Wildlife Harassment Penalties in Protected Zones." The sum was staggering. "We're prepared to offer a waiver," Coleman interjected smoothly, "in return for your participation in an educational initiative. A cultural exchange, if you will. Your people seem to require a deeper understanding of Earth's environmental practices. In exchange for your testimony to other spacefaring races, we offer intensive education about our methods." "Testimony? About what?" Teach inquired, bewildered. "About the consequences of illegally hunting in protected Earth territories." Coleman's friendly demeanor vanished, replaced by the predatory smile of someone teaching rivals a vital lesson. "We need other species to realize Earth isn't a hunting ground or a test. It's our sanctuary, and we will defend it." The Craxians exchanged uneasy glances, then stared at the bustling rehabilitation center teeming with Earth's most lethal creatures, all under human care. "We must revise our databases," Teich conceded at last. "Wonderful. Dr. Walsh will provide thorough ecosystem management documents for your perusal," Coleman replied, her tone warm again. As they turned to leave, the smallest Craxian hesitantly asked, "What should we convey to other species about Earth?" Coleman paused, considering her words carefully. "Tell them Earth's true apex predators aren't those with sharp teeth or claws. Tell them the most dangerous species on this planet builds hospitals for its competitors and feeds stray cats." She glanced back at the sanctuary from the exit, her voice taking on a quiet intensity. "And tell them that we're exceptionally skilled at safeguarding what we consider ours. All of it." The shuttle journey back to orbit was eerily silent, broken only by the frantic tapping of 3 Craxian warriors amending their species' initial contact directives. In the distance, the Earth rotated serenely, a tranquil blue-green jewel, home to 8 billion apex predators who valued protecting their planet above displays of raw power. They were mistaken about Earth. They were mistaken about